according to Luke. And of course we know that we are during the fertility of the 50 days of the counting of the Omer. So let's change that. Let's do a little change. We'll go to the book of Maaseh Shlichim, Acts, Hechos, for Vincent.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, Vincent, there's no translator, so
You'll be all right.
you're going to have to learn English. Okay, you have about 2 hours to get it done.
Yes, sir.
So don't play games with me no more. Baruch Hashem,
Yahweh.
Yahweh.
We'll swear him away. A couple of blows, he'll be all right.
Maaseh Shlichim,
Getting there.
Acts chapter 2. I'm sorry, let's do chapter 1. So what day do we have during the counting of the Omer?
30.
The 30th day.
30th day.
How many days from the 16th of Aviv until the feast of Shavuot weeks has fully come? How many days? 50. What day is today? 30. How many more days to Shavuot? 20. Verse 1. The first scroll, Acts 1:1. The first scroll, I have made, Theophilus, of all that Yeshua began to do and teach, until the day in which he was taken up through the Ruach HaKodesh and had given his Torah, his instructions. That's Torah. Same thing the Father gave on Mount Sinai. The renewed Torah in the heart, not on tablets of stone. To the Shlichim, the apostles whom he had chosen. This message is kind of a rewind. It's a renewing of something I taught in 2007. But most of you were either not here in 2007, or perhaps you weren't paying attention in 2007.
Well, we'll see.
So I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to understand these things. So number one, I want you to see in verse 2 that Yeshua gave his Torah. He established some rules. Faith in Yahweh. But we're about to see the real purpose in modern times of the counting of the Omer.
Amen.
We count the Omer 50 days. So we're going to see the real purpose in the counting of the Omer. What is the reason? Yes, Yahweh says in Leviticus 23, count 50 days, and then on the 50th day bring a new offering, 2 unleavened loaves, and wave the 2 unleavened loaves before Yahweh, the Kohen Hagadol, the high priest. But what is, okay, that's the ritual, but there's no temple today. How do we fulfill this mitzvah today? How do we fulfill this what is the purpose of counting the Omer? We know according to the Torah, we bring the 2 loaves, a new harvest. We start with the barley harvest of first fruits, and we complete it with the wheat harvest 50 days later. That's nice, but there's no Kohen HaGadol on earth, and there's no temple on earth. So how do we make this fit to us? Give us some reasons, Rabbi. Give us some reasons for counting the 50 days. But give us some real reasons that are applicable to our lives. Can I hear a good amen?
Amen.
Verse 3. To whom Yeshua, in addition to giving his Torah, also showed himself alive after his passion by many infallible proofs, too many to even record in the renewed covenant, the Brit Chadashah. Being seen by the Shlichim apostles for 40 days, speaking of things pertaining to the Malchut, the kingdom of Yahweh. Question is, for 40 days, in addition to proving his resurrection from the dead, Wilbur, he was teaching us, what was he teaching us? The Father's Torah. But what else was he doing? He was speaking of other things that pertain to the kingdom. The teaching Torah, we understand that. Showing himself alive through many infallible proofs, we understand that. But what was he speaking of? What was he speaking of? And what does he want us to speak of? Not for 1 day or 2 days, but for 50 days. Brothers and sisters, these 40 days are speaking of kingdom things, pertain to a progressive growth in the faith. The 50 days are to take us from saving faith to trust, to believe. Can I hear a good amen?
Amen.
As we will soon see, he followed a precedent. The disciples went from first Adams to second Adams in their trust. And in their 50-day spiritual journey, he was speaking to them about going to higher levels of kingdom understanding. What was he doing for the first 42 days of the counting of the Omer? In other words, what day did Yeshua rise from the dead? On the second day of the counting of the Omer. He was killed on the 14th day of the first month, Passover. 3 days later, he rose on the 17th day. We begin to count the Omer on the 16th, or the day after the first day of unleavened bread, which is the 15th. And he rose from the dead on the second day of the blessed counting of the Omer. Then for 40 days, he was teaching us Torah and kingdom things during the blessed counting of the Omer. And he was ascended to the Father 40 days later from the Mount of Olives during the counting of the Omer. And then on the 50th day during the counting of the Omer, he poured out his blessed Ruach HaKodesh. This is a very important time. Now you're an Israelite. You are to mark your days and your years no longer by Christmas, no longer by Easter, no longer by Thanksgiving. Some of those things are pagan, some are not. People say to me all the time, well, Rabbi, now that we're Nazarene Israelites, Nazarene by faith in Yeshua, Israelites by our being disciples and by our nationhood, should we celebrate Mother's Day? No, invariably, there are going to be a lot of opinions. Now, the good news is no one's pressing you for an opinion. But the bad news is, I'm not interested in your opinion because, guess what? There's only one chief bottle washer here. All right? And I'm the one that washes the bottles. Until further notice. Why are you looking at me like that? All right? So, let's take Mother's Day, for example. Absolutely, man. Let it fly. Roses, bouquets, bottle of white wine for the lady. Red wine.
Father's Day.
Why? Because it's a biblical principle. Honor your father and mother. If you are so religious and you're so Torah observant that you can't even celebrate a day for your mom, you got a religious problem. You got a spiritual religious problem. That's all I'm going to say. Because I'm in a good mood today.
Well, that ends that.
So, what was Yeshua doing from the second day of the Omer, which he rose, 3 days after he was killed, 40 days, and then he ascended to the Father on the 42nd day. He was teaching for 40 days. He was gradually, changing our animal nature to a nature like his. And I don't want to go into animal nature, okay? Trust me, we got it.
Yes.
All right? You don't need me to elaborate on that.
I know that's right.
You got an animal nature. Sex, food,
Hey.
shelter, Try going without those things for any period of time. And you'll understand what's going on with your nature. Yeshua was gradually changing their animal nature to a nature like his, developing their temple body, preparing their body, which it will soon house the temple, will soon be the temple for the Ruach HaKodesh. So in other words, for those 40 days, he was speaking of kingdom things, he was speaking of spiritual things that were